Hello, welcome to the Career Dominion podcast with your host, Diamond D Money 1996, episode 2 of the mental health series releasing in March. I have a special guest here, Mr. Jefe Seats out of Ohio. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. And so got a great episode planned for you guys today. We'll be highlighting mental health issues within the community and different various things. And so to kind of get started, we'll let Hefe talk through a little bit of his upbringing in regards to what he does with his podcast.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me on here. I appreciate the opportunity. It's always a blessing to be on somebody else's platform. I have a podcast called Bro Let's Talk, and basically what that is, it's like a safe space for men, but I've opened it up to women too. A lot of people join, but we talk about deep things. We talk about, like you said, mental health. We talk about relationships. We talk about parenting. We talk about everything, but it's a place for a man's perspective to be heard. We have special guests from time to time, but I like to talk about topics that people usually don't like to, you know, touch on. So that's basically what that is. I started that last year, and since then it's been real successful. We have a lot of listeners that give a lot of good feedback. So I'd say we're doing a real good job with it. But yep, that's basically it.
Awesome, awesome. And again, that is Bro Let's Talk podcast. And so we'll kind of get started. And so one of the first topics I want to talk about in regards to mental health. When I first started my podcast journey, so again, the Career Dominion podcast, we've been live since January 29th of this year of 2024. And so one of the things I was noticing is we'll speak first on the Black community. I noticed a lot of women podcasts in regards of like Black women's mental health, but I
Yes,
maybe saw like, I know when I was going through the different Spotify and the different platforms, I might have seen maybe two or three men's podcasts in general. And so one of the things I want to touch on is, in your opinion, um, how big of an impact do you feel men's mental health is in today's society?
um, that's a good question. I think it is very, very important. I am a person who advocates for therapy. I got into therapy about 3 years ago, and it really changed my life. I grew up spiritual background and stuff like that, and I know in the Black community, we always preach that all you need is Jesus, all you need, is to do is pray and stuff like that. But when I got into therapy, I really realized how damaged I was mentally. And some things I do believe in prayer, of course, but I do believe that talking about things with a natural person face to face like this is very it helps a lot with your mental. It helps you break things down. It shows you a different perspective. I think that a lot of Black men are taught that being strong is not expressing how they feel, bottling up their emotions, and just moving on to the next thing, because we are the head of household and we are the strong one in the family. All of these different statistics and things that we're supposed to be, which is great, but our mental health usually suffers because we have to keep moving. We have to keep going. So I think that is very important. And I love to see men podcasts these days that can talk about mental health, because it's real important. When a man's mental is right, he's a much better person for sure.
Awesome, awesome. I'm glad you touched on that because I believe mental health in general, when it comes to men, like you said, those different statistics that were portrayed. I just remember growing up, you were taught like, hey, men, we're not supposed to cry. You're being a little sissy, especially
Absolutely.
just as a little kid. And so with that being said, I feel like mental health in men's can trickle down to different areas in your life. It could be your romantic relationships. It can be your family relationships, sibling relationships. Like I said, I come from a spiritual background, grew up in church as well, Pentecostal, and so
Yes,
even your
sir.
church family. And so one of the things that really got me into the podcasting was the fact that we could reach other men and let them know. So if you're viewing the podcast, I just want to let you know that your voice matters. You know, you are able to express yourself. You know, you're not, a crybaby. You're not less than a man for expressing your feelings. And I feel like uh, us as men, especially black men in the community, we kind of take that negative stigma of holding everything in and not actually healing and just kind of, moving on to the next thing. And I think it really affects us negatively within our not only romantic relationships, but just relationships with other men, just as a brotherly love type of thing, but also women as well. And so, can you speak on the negative impacts of? We can talk through first with family, and then we can talk through like in regards to relationships.
Okay, so you said the negative impact of not dealing with like mental health issues and stuff like that, or our being able to be open about our mental health.
Correct.
Okay, for me personally, I grew up with some baggage, some damage. I went through a lot when I was younger. Just typical not having a father there, um, some different things as far as like abuse and stuff like that. So I grew up with all of that being on the inside. I never was able to let it out. So when I grew up and got in a relationship and stuff, I had held so much of that baggage on the inside. I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to let it out. I didn't know that it was okay to cry or that it was okay to show emotion because, like you said, society deems us as being soft if we show a little bit of emotion, if we cry, if we let that out. And I think that now I'm realizing that had I been able to express that a little more or been able to tell the person I was with or the relationships that I was in how I was feeling or what I was dealing with, they would have worked out better. A lot of us, we suppress our feelings, we suppress our emotions, and it does a lot of damage. When we're with somebody and we can't open up with them. We have issues that we can't talk to them about. We struggle with things that they don't understand, but we're not able to express it. I think it causes a big problem in all relationships, not even just romantic relationships, but even family relationships. I know in our community, we are a what happens in my house stays in my house type of you know the black community were like that. And I think that for me growing up on both the relationships and the family side, it damaged me 100% because there was a lot of hurt inside that I just could not let out. And like I said, not having my father present in my life, I wasn't able to I was never shown that it's okay to be. I wouldn't say soft because that's what I wouldn't say it's being soft, but I was never shown or told that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to feel and have emotions, and this is how you're supposed to let them out. So, fast forwarding to how that messed up or had like relation with my relationship, I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't know how to open up in the proper way. So when I did open up, or when it did, those emotions did come out, it was in a negative way. I'm yelling, I'm screaming, I'm being toxic, I'm doing all these different things the wrong way. You get what I'm saying?
Right, I definitely agree with that, and you hit a lot of key points. So the first is, just growing up, in the black community, everything is in the household. They always say, mind your business, stay in the child's place. Just different sayings of that nature, and we're always taught that. Like I said, even though I did grow up with, I don't know if you've viewing the podcast, go ahead and check out the childhood trauma series that I have on there on the Creative Dominion. I kind of go through, my childhood story. And so I have my father in my life, younger, but went through a lot of domestic violence, and just childhood trauma in regards of how I was treated. And with that being said, just a little snippet from that is, I was always taught to, be perfect. If you made a mistake, you were less than, or you were weak or vulnerable. And so my, psyche, my mental was always to revert to trying to be perfect, trying to please everybody. And that kind of got that bad label of, being able to take advantage of in regards to being a nice guy in relationships, or, trying to be perfect, so not make a mistake. And then when I did make a mistake, I wasn't taught to, channel those emotions properly. So it was always like a lash out or
Yeah.
yelling, cussing, screaming, different things. And so with that being said, one of the main, topics, especially that's coming up in the Black community, or just in men and women, is today's society. How do you feel about, um, the emotional trauma in regards to relationships? Like, let's say you get your heart broken. What's your opinion on how that relates to how we were raised, or how the stigma of men are today, especially in the Black community?
So I would say personally that because I've been there, and I've been there tough, and I never knew how to deal with emotional trauma. I'm just now learning how to properly manage my emotions as a whole, whether it be with intimate relationship or like a family relationship. So I would say what has helped me on this journey is, like I said, therapy from the beginning. And I think it's so important that we teach our boys how to properly channel their emotions. Heartbreak is inevitable. It's going to happen somewhere, somewhere along the line. But growing up, I seen negative patterns of abuse. I see negative. I know you talked about domestic violence. Like I've experienced that with my mom. So growing up, I was shown that negative side of when it's time to break up or whatever, or we don't work out, it gets physical, it gets toxic. We're doing this, we're doing that. But growing up, I just think seeing that's what I always dub back to. I'm not a physical type of person, so I never put my hands on anybody. But when my heart got broken in my past relationships, I would always go back to wanting to hurt you the same way you hurt me, or wanting to um, talk down the same way, talk down to you the same way you talk down to me, or um, just different things like that. So I think that within the new generation, and that's why I love these podcasts and stuff, it's important to allow little boys or men or whoever, because we never stop growing, to the space to understand that being emotional is not just a female thing. It is for everybody. We all have emotions. And I think that the most important thing in telling them that is also showing them a way to express those. A lot of people express their emotions negatively. They're toxic, they fight, they're violent, but that's because they've been pent in, they've been pent up, they've haven't released what they've been feeling. So when we create a space for them to let that out and let those emotions go without judging them and without telling them they're soft for feeling like that or whatever the case may be, it definitely helps in that transition of their emotions. And that's what has helped me.
Awesome, awesome. You said a lot of key things. The first thing you said towards the end there, I remember when I was in eighth grade, I actually went to a counselor, just to talk through different therapeutic mental health issues as a teenager in middle school. And I remember the counselor telling me about the volcano method. And
Okay.
so she actually explained, my mental health situation in a nutshell. And she was basically saying that you have what we call the volcano method or the volcano effect, where if you like did science class back then, a volcano, it grows and grows and grows, hides everything inside, all the lava, all the molten rock, all the magma, the gases, it, compresses and compresses. And then when it's ready to erupt, all that from you got to think how big a volcano is. It's way out into the bottom of the ground, all the way up towards the sky,
Yeah.
several hundred feet in the air. Everything inside, is bubbling up. And then when it erupts, it covers the whole land and, destroys everything in its path. And so she kind of explained that to me of like, hey, from your childhood, um, I just think that, it starts with subtle things. It could be as simple as, you know, in middle school, we used to have where you pass notes around, back in grade school. It
Yeah.
could be as simple as a girl, letting you down and saying, I'm sorry, I don't like you. Or it could be as simple as, getting a whooping as a kid for something you might have not done or might not thought that was that serious. And, it starts that young and then it kind of grows and, um, it grows and grows and festers. And then always think of human life as a tree. A tree
Yeah.
gets planted as a seed and it grows into the large trees that we drive past on the road each day. And then to caveat to that, if a tree falls down during a storm, it blocks the whole road. You can't get through. And that's
Right.
kind of what we are mentally with our past. We're like our past is like trees that have fallen down on the road to where we're trying to get to. And so we kind of have to look at that when we're looking through, different mental health issues. Another thing you've been saying through this whole episode is that seeking higher counsel, seeking counseling. Um, I was talking to an older gentleman um, just in regards of how, he's about in his 50s and he was just explaining, back then, it was frowned upon in the black community, especially to, seek counseling or, I grew up with a single mom. He grew up with a single mom with, four other siblings. They couldn't afford, counseling back in the day, or, if you didn't have money, you just didn't do it. And, I just think that today's society, especially being 2024, has allowed not only our generation of younger folks to like podcasts and talk through things, but it's also opened the eyes of, the millennials and just different older generations to kind of go back to their childhood and say, wait a minute, this that happened to me, that wasn't okay. I should talk about that. And then
For
I
sure.
know the gentleman, he had a son as well that, was in his 20s and he was able to see the behavior that he was doing to his son, inadvertently, just off of instinct, and was able to kind of go back and do therapy and, talk with his sons to like break that generational curse. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you're viewing, I would definitely say, seek higher counsel, whatever it is in life with your mental health journey. If you're looking to be in a healthy marriage, surround yourself with people that are in a healthy, loving marriage. Pick their brain, talk to them, ask questions, find a count. There's different therapeutic ways, different advisors, if you will. Find the one that fits you and fits, what you're looking to accomplish. And so,
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I definitely want to say I think it's very important to find the person that fits you. Like I've had 3 therapists and I had to move past the first one because she just was not she wasn't for me. And I think that that's okay. And a lot of people run away from therapy or counseling or whatever you want to call it because they cannot find the person that's for them, or they think that the person that they're with or they're going to therapy with is the only option. There is so many options out here, and it's important that you take the responsibility of your own mental health to get help. don't just sit and settle for whatever you get. And I know a lot of times when you go through therapy in like your doctor's office, like at first this therapist was given to me or introduced to me from my doctor, it was a horrible fit. Like I couldn't be open, I couldn't be honest. She didn't understand me, whatever. So I had to switch her. I went through another one. She was great, but she had to leave. I don't know. I think she transferred jobs or something. But this one that I've had for about a year and a half, I love her. She gets me, she understands she's black, and I think that for me that's very important. For other people that may not be as important, but for me it's very important to talk to somebody that understands how I was raised or understand my background or where I came from or the things when I talk about black culture or the black community, they can understand that. So anybody looking to get therapy, I would definitely just encourage them to take the time to invest in the right therapist.
Awesome, awesome. That's a great point that you made with finding the right therapist. But and also to caveat to that is, you have to think, if you're viewing, you have to think of your mental health as a very, important topic because your mind is your biggest muscle. Just like your physical therapy, if you're going to a chiropractor, some people are afraid of chiropractor. Some people love the chiropractor, but my personal, I've had three or four different chiropractors. Each one was different. One might specialize in back muscles. One might specialize in different areas in the body, and so you have to look at your mental health as your greatest muscle because, like I said, your mind, feeds the body. Whatever you're thinking, is going to trickle down to your body. You know,
Absolutely.
you could think, if you wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I'm so tired, my leg hurts," your mind's going to trick your body into thinking your leg hurts, and you're going to go to the doctor and say, "My leg's been hurting all week. What's going on?" And they'll do the X-rays and say, "There's nothing wrong with your leg," and you're like, "What are you talking about? My leg hurts." And then, or if you wake up every morning and take your vitamins and say, I'm I feel great. I'm gonna have a great day. I feel awesome. That's gonna trickle down into your body as well. And so you have to look at your mental health as the same way. Like I mentioned earlier, you're like a tree that's growing and blossoming. You want to make sure that you're um, if there's a dead branch on a tree, you have to cut it.
Yeah,
You can't just let it sit there. And that's what mental health is. The traumas in our past, we have to seek therapy. We have to deal with those things. If not, we're just going to have dead branches and dead weight carrying.
for sure, for sure. Absolutely. I agree. I like that reference with the tree thing. I've heard it before, but I really like that. Like I never heard it like that. Especially what you said about if a tree falls over the road, nothing can get past it. That's dope. And then also what you said about seeking different counsel or having different people for different things. For me, I have a therapist that I talk about my mental health with, but I also have counseling with my pastors. So we talk about more spiritual stuff, and I think that is so important on all different levels. Everybody's not a spiritual person, and that's okay. But do what's important for you to get to where you need to get to. I am still going through the journey. Like every single day, it is a journey. Some days are better than others. Some days I feel like, but like you said you have to speak into yourself of how that day is going to go. But some days I wake up with the mindset of it's just not a good day. I'm not feeling good. I'm not myself. I'm not happy like I should be. And unless you have the power to speak that positivity into yourself, or unless you have the outsource help to speak that into yourself, um, you'll walk around feeling like that. Like you said, you'll literally speak that negativity into your life. I know a person that when they say they're sick, they go from 0 to 100. They don't even be that sick, but because they say it, they start to think it, and now their body is reacting to what their mind and their mouth is saying. It's over for them at that point. So it's very important, like you said, to speak what you want to happen, to speak how you want your day to go, and it's mind over matter.
Right. It's very well said. Very well said. Like I said, you are the. They always say you are the company you keep, and you know you do manifest the things that you want.
Absolutely.
And with that, next kind of to segue into the next topic in regards to mental health for men, specifically, um, what's your opinion on you know the social media and how it impacts negatively you know that cliche of what a man's supposed to be, especially when women post like, oh, you're supposed to do pay all the bills, do all the things, and you can't cry about it. Just shut up and do it. What's your take on that?
So I love social media. I do. I'm addicted to it sometimes, and I hate that, and I'm trying to get over it. Um, but then I hate social media for reasons like that. Social media is a place where you post what you want people to see. Well, for the most part, but you can literally create a lifestyle that is nowhere near yours. So I think that when we have these debates about 50-50 or what a man is like or what a man should be, but half of these women that are explaining what a man should be are dealing with daddy issues themselves. So they don't know what a true man looks like. And I think when it comes to a man paying the bills, I'm a man that likes to pay all the bills. I'm okay with that because right now that's where my pockets are. But I think that when I get married, when I get into marriage or a relationship or anything like that, I think that figuring out what's best for our relationship is the most important thing. If you allow social media to tell you how to run your finances, your relationship, your kids, and all of these different things, you will literally just go wrong with everything. Um, I hate the negative impact that social media has on people's mindset, even when it comes to what people have. A person can post a brand new car or them sitting on a car, and automatically your mind goes to, oh, I want that, why don't I have that? And it could be a rental. We don't know what the circumstances are or what's really going on, but because we see it, we think that it's true. So that goes with relationships too, and that goes with the double standard that women will post. We live in a generation of city girls, girls that think you gotta buy my time. That's ridiculous. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Because at what point do you feel like you're so worth it for me to have to pay everything? And we're talking about not even being in a relationship. I've heard like you got to cash at me for a conversation. That is ridiculous. That is stupidity. And I really feel bad for our generation growing up. I have a child. So I think about her generation and when she grows up, how doomed we are and how doomed the society is with mindsets like that. But it goes back to my opinion is it goes back to what's being promoted. Like I said, a city girl generation. You have city girls, you got Meg Thee Stallion, you got a whole bunch of other rappers and female artists and reality TV stars that are pushing this. And when you have men that don't stand up and say, that ain't it, or this is not that, or this is what I stand for and I said what I said, um, it's gonna trump us men all the time. I don't agree with it, and I think that we need more platforms like this to be able to stand out and to be able to say that's not cool, that's not right, and this is what it is, and this is how it should be, in order for that to change.
Also, I appreciate you saying that. Like I said, gonna have me start on a tangent with that. What do you feel is the main reason for that, like cash at me mentality?
Um, you know what? I don't know. I hate it, and I think it's like borderline prostitution without having sex. I personally feel like that because it's just like for a conversation, I have to cash app you. I have to get your hair done, your nails done, your feet done, and all of these other things before we even go on a date. That is insanity to me. And I truly, truly believe that it is just the influence of what is being pushed. Reality TV stars, you see these glamorous lifestyles. They're in debt. Their house is in foreclosure, and a man ain't got no money, but he got loans, he got credit cards, and all these things. So we're seeing what they're pushing, and it's being put on us, regular men, and it's just like it's unrealistic to have to pay for everything all the time. Like I said, like I'm a man that I like to pay for stuff. I like to wine and dine. I like to take care of, but I also like to be taken care of on the flip side in other ways. But nowadays, people don't know how to give and take. It's just a take, 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 take. That's how we get to the cash at me for this, cash at me for that. I think it's just coming from the influences that we have personally.
Right, it's definitely a great take on that, and my take really is, and like I said, to kind of start from the beginning, I grew up the very nice guy. Like I said, go ahead and check out that first couple episodes of childhood trauma. I kind of go through my childhood, but growing up middle school, I had, um, we went from, you know, apartment living to, nice house, two, three, four cars,
Okay.
just different, um, things. And so, also with that mindset of having to be perfect, that was instilled into me from my biological father. I was always the nice guy, even going up into high school and starting to date. I was, buy the candy, obviously, I'm a chef as well. So, cooking the girl favorite meal, favorite dessert. That actually used to be my favorite, like when I was first, what we call sliding the DMs or shooting your shot.
Yeah.
That was that was always my go-to, hey, hey girl, what's your favorite meal? What's your favorite dessert? Would you want some steak? Some lobster tail? Everybody loved red lobster back then. And so, I was always, always the nice guy, and I really, looking back, in my early like ages, like 17 to maybe 20, it kind of really got taken advantage of financially. I always had a rule that no matter what the girl was, I was always paying for the first date. They said the first date was always on me.
Yeah.
And back then, it was before I do have, I'm a single father of twin boys, do have joint custody. They're 6 years old. But before then, before I had kids, I would date, single moms. And like, it would always kind of be, like you said, that like prostitution without the intimacy. Like, it was always like, hey, can you help me pay a light bill? Can you
Yep.
help buy Pampers for my kid? Can you, or even the dates? It was always like a bunch of free dates, and then I'll get ghosted,
Yep.
and then uh, a month later they'll hit me up. What you doing? You trying to, you trying to see me? And then like, and then one of the things that not to go on, I'm gonna go on a rant, but I ain't gonna go on a rant, but I'm gonna go on a rant.
Go
Um,
ahead.
and this is for the viewers out there, and I want everybody to listen closely. Everybody's time matters. Everybody's, time is the one thing we can't get back. And so I understand the whole like, he's got to like, when you're talking to a significant other that you're trying to like be with, that understand that mindset of, he's got to like show me, that he's serious. But I don't agree. Why did like I always have a question for women? Why am I paying you gas money to come, meet me halfway or come see? Like that's one thing I just never understood. Like I want to see you, but can you cash out me $30 for gas or um, that's or always some kind of like financial gain? And I just think that personally, you know, one of the stigmas in today's society is the whole like all men want is that intimate part of the relationship, but then you're only one social media. You're only advertising your body parts with the vulgar post and like the promiscuous, pictures and things like that. So, like you said, social media, you portray what others want to see. It's your platform, it's your brand. And so,
Yep.
um, perception is reality. So, if I'm like, just think about your restaurant. If you go to a restaurant that's all boarded up, it's got roaches and rat crawling around, and that's all you see on social. Like, think about that. Like, you see on social media, like, well, I want to try this new restaurant, and they're posting like rats running through the kitchen. You're not gonna go to that restaurant.
Right.
But
Right.
if you see nice decorum, nice menu items, you see the where the location is, nice area, you know, good reviews, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna try that place out. So it's the same thing with your, social media profiles. All you post is, half nude pictures. Then, as a whoever, it doesn't even have to be just a man relationship wise, that's, our synopsis of you until we get to know you. And then, but then you
Absolutely.
also say, I got to pay you to get to know you. So that it's like a double edged sword there. It's like, okay, you know, you're posting this, I'm looking at you this way. And then to get to know the real, like, and I put this in quotation marks, the real you want me to pay you $30 for gas money or just cash out for my time. Like, um, I really like you. Can you cash out me $20 for something to eat? And I just remember being the nice guy, and I had to really kind of get out of that mindset of like, not being the nice guy, but being the good guy. You can be the good guy, but
Yeah.
you have to be stern because, like I said, people are just gonna take advantage of your time.
Absolutely. And I think that for me, as of now in my life, I'm not cash apping nobody nothing for time. I'm just not that guy anymore. And like you said, I grew up the nice guy as well. And I think for me, I grew up that way because I wanted to feel validation and I wanted to feel loved in a certain way and I just wanted to be wanted. So I was willing to splurge, I was willing to give, I was willing to do whatever I could to make you like me until I realized that I don't have to do all of that for a person that really wants me, for a person that really wants to get to know me and be in my life and be a part of who I am. I don't have to cash out you $30 to hold a conversation. This whole tricking generation is insane, and I've been a part of it. I've done it. It's been on the flip side. I've done it all, but I've just come to realize like if a person is interested in you, it's all about you. And I think that when dating a person, if they really care about how you view them, if they really care about getting to know you, if they need money, you will not be the first person that they go to ask for it because especially in the first stages of getting to know somebody, to get their hair done, to get their nails done, to get whatever you're getting done, that is relationship stuff, that is marriage stuff, that is not dating stuff. But I also think that it is our fault for starting that. Like I used to date somebody and I started out paying for stuff. I started out paying for everything. I started out beautiful dates, nice, expensive restaurants, trying to wine and dine. But when you start off like that, you got to maintain that. And so I think anybody getting into the dating pool or whatever, start where you can maintain. Because if you're starting at $300 restaurants and flowers every week, you better keep that up because the moment you drop the ball on that is going to be a problem because you created an expectation for yourself. So, yeah.
You had a lot of great points there. Like I said, there's a lot of first thing before I answer that. Also, stop asking people with kids for money and you ain't got no kids. That's the one I had to say it. I'm sorry, I had to say it. Like, I got twin boys I'm trying to feed. You ain't got no kids. And you live with
And
your parents. Why are you asking me for $30?
that part.
But to answer your just to go back to when I said the synopsis in regards to social media, that's the same thing in regards to dating. You start and you dictate. I just want men that are viewing this podcast episode here. I want you to know that you dictate. The man's job to lead. You dictate the start of the relationship.
Yeah,
And so if you my stepdad always talked to me about separating. You said a lot of things too about separating. One of my hardest thing is I've always been an all or nothing type person, and that's burned
yeah,
me many a times because you're like, well, if I like her, then she likes me, or you think she likes you, then it's like, all right, well, we're gonna get married in 2 months. We're gonna, we're
yeah,
gonna, or you think that, oh, we went to Cracker Barrel for the breakfast date. Oh, she's my girlfriend now. And one thing that I'm 27 now. One thing I'm, learning, still learning, but one thing I've grown to learn over the past just short couple years is like separating, you know, the expectations and the standard I set based on the woman. One advice I want to give all the viewers is you dictate the start, let the woman flow um, with the relationship. So what I mean by that is, let's just say first date. Let's just use Texas Roadhouse. That's just a staple, you know, chain restaurant. Everybody has, great steaks, you
yeah,
know, good rolls, good apple, good salads. Um, if you take a girl on a first date to Texas Roadhouse, you set the standard like, hey, we just gonna low key, we gonna, get to know each other, have a little steak, little salad, maybe a little margarita, and
yeah,
I got, like I said, those type of dates, you want to be like I did and do hey, I got the first date here. Don't worry about it. I got this one. But from that date, the one mistake I always made is with my all or nothing mentality is thinking that, oh, if I, and it doesn't always have to be intimate, but, if I get a kiss on the date or she says she really likes me and really like the date, I would take that as, oh, well, we're together now. And you have to, I caution everybody to slow down, just because, um, and that's with anything in life. Just because you have one good date doesn't mean you're getting married, or it doesn't mean that this is, God bless you with the one. Like, oh, it doesn't matter. And what that does, it actually blinds your mindset to the red flags. She could have 20 kids. She could have 5 baby daddies. You have to also, with that, be content with the conversation you're having during the date. Ask the right questions. Too many times I've been blinded by, oh, it's good food. She's beautiful. She says she loved the food. Keyword to the viewers: who doesn't love free food? She's not gonna say, unless it's just a worse server, worse like culinary experience. I get, especially coming from a fellow cook, you could have an off night, but unless it's just the worst service ever, she's not gonna blatantly to your face unless she's just that, a rude type woman. But then at that point, you just leave her anyway. She's not gonna look at you while you're paying and say, "This food is absolutely terrible. I can't stand." So one, it's the free food thing. Two, also with that is ask the right questions on the date. Don't just look at her face or look at her body or whatever she's wearing. Oh, you're
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. She's gonna fall in love with me. Like, and then a lot of girls too. I think when we're talking on this mental health, um, with men, I think it goes the other way is too. A lot of women are the nice girl, or they're scared to, I fell for that hard. Like, a lot of women are afraid to like be. Not all women are aggressive in regards to how they communicate. A lot of women are scared to, in public. Now through text or on the phone, they might tell you like, "Hey, I don't really like you," or "Hey,
Yeah.
slow down." But they're not gonna, on a date, be like, "I didn't really like this date," or "I'm not really feeling the vibe." They're gonna
But
wait till you leave.
so real quick with that, I think that that's a that's a man's problem. Like I feel like women are not scared. Women are afraid to be honest with us because of how men will react. Some men will react to rejection. Some men cannot take no for an answer. And so a lot of women being on a date, they won't tell you like you said, like, oh, I'm not really that into you. When really as adults, we should be able to just communicate that, be honest about it. Maybe we could be great friends and move on, to the next person. But that's a problem that I think that definitely needs to be addressed, that women don't feel safe to be able to tell men the truth to their face.
Awesome, perfect, and like that definitely segues into the conversation with that. If you're viewing out here, especially as a man, you have to understand that women are equal too. They're people too. You're not entitled to have authority over a woman just because you're buying dinner or just because you slid in DMs and she agreed to go on a date with you. And that includes intimate relations. That includes just her time, and then vice versa. So like definitely moving forward, we're not going to cash app, and we're not going to get mad when she says no. Women are allowed to say no. Um, Sometimes the vibe's just not there. Don't scream, and don't get aggressive. Like I said, I'm obviously a domestic violence advocate, so I'm
Yeah.
100% against any domestic violence actions in regards against both women and men. Don't want any domestic violence in general, but you know, women are allowed to voice their opinions. Women are allowed to be, you're allowed to say no. They're allowed to not like you. They're not to not want to sleep with you. They're not allowed to. Um, and don't use one thing that we have to use both genders is stop using materialistic things as a hindrance or a crutch for someone's to mentally subdue someone. Just because you're buying the nice things, and that goes back to what Jefe said about um, starting off strong with the $300 dates and the flowers every week. Just because you buy the material, whether it's $1 candy bar that's her favorite Hershey bar or a $300 Louis Vuitton bag, you know, don't put the materialistic form into your relationship. That shouldn't be the value of her. Don't value her worth based on what materialistic things you're providing for her. And so I'll let you kind of chime in on, your opinion on that as well.
So for one, the $300 Louis Vuitton bag, I want to know where to get that at because I cannot find no $300 Louis bag. But I think that that's very important. Like I said, I am a wine and diner type of person. Like I personally like finer things in life. So when I date, I feel like, especially now, I got a little bread. I'm doing well for myself. So I find it very easy to do the $300 dates and stuff like that. And then if you're the type of man that then expect something from that, that's a problem. Like you said, we have to stop expecting just because you're doing something because they don't ask for it, and if they do, that's a red flag from the get go. But I, in the past, would do these big old extravagant dates, rose petals, flowers, blah 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 blah, and then when I don't get nothing in return, I'm upset. I'm feeling some type of way. So it's true, it happens, and I don't even think that sometimes we notice it, but a lot of times it's like if I take you on a nice date, I already know what I'm getting in return. I already know that, I should be getting something from this. So it's definitely something we have to stop assuming and expecting from people when dating.
That's definitely, like I said, that's definitely a great call out. You said something else there that I want to get into in here in a second. Before I get into that, um, like you said, don't assume, don't make an ass out of yourself by assuming. Um, and what I mean by that is, I'm just big on, me personally, I'm big on communicating. I've never gone into a date expecting intimate relations from a woman. Um, I kind of like, me personally, I always went with the flow, and then I always had, if it was um, a woman that I was involved, like wanting to be involved with in the future with that way, like intimately, then I kind of like knew telltale signs, or like, I would just let it flow. But definitely don't like, oh, if I take her to Roof Chris Steakhouse and spend 200 and get the, get that shrimp cocktail. Oh, that shrimp cocktail gonna get that creme brulee at the dessert, and that shrimp cocktail gonna get her. She coming home with me with that shrimp cocktail.
That's
Don't
weird. That's a
don't be
weird
like that. That's
thing.
right. That's very creepy. That's very narcissistic to um
Yeah, it's very creepy. And when you think about it, a lot of men think like that. Like if I buy this or if I buy that, they gotta give me some. They gotta give me this or that. When really that ain't how it work. That's just not how it work. And really you playing yourself because you just out of money. And unless you are doing something out of the genuineness of your heart, out of the kindness of your heart, don't do it. Because if you're doing it to expect something, you're doing it to get something from it, just leave it alone. You don't have to do all that. A person should be dating you for you, not for what you could buy them, not for the dates that you could take them on. Now, I ain't a McDonald's type of guy. I'm not a Burger King type of guy. I'm not even a. I love Applebee's, but I do believe in wining and dining. Now that doesn't mean a $300 bill, but that does mean, impress. Do a little more than just 2 for $25 at Applebee's. Now, if that's what you can afford at that time, that's a different story for me because I feel that men should really get themselves together. People should get themselves together before dating and before getting into anything serious because it's just important. Dating can be very expensive, and I just that's another situation though. So I don't know.
and then and to go in kind of the topic I was gonna go into with what you said with the whining and dining. One tip I'll give the viewers, one thing I had to learn um, was flow with where the female at is too, financially, mentally. What I mean by that, I'll tell a funny story about me and the twins, well, the one of my kids. Like I said, it's not a bashful or anything. Like one tip, never bash who you have kids with, because like I said, they're the bloodlines mix and created the offspring. So whatever you say about them is what you're saying about your own family legacy. So that's one, key tip. Two, it's a really funny story. When we first got together, she would always say like, she had a son prior to us being together, so she already had a kid, and she was just like, I've never been on a nice date, and when we first got together, her favorite restaurant when we first got together was Red Lobster, and she would always get the king crab legs, and we used to just laugh and say, "You ain't never ate no crab legs before." No, so you want some crab legs. And so, it's just a little funny story, but I bring that up to say, like, me, you know, I have, like I said, especially being a chef as well, I do enjoy the partner things in life as well. But know what know what your expectations are for the woman. And that comes with your standards. And standards in today's society have gone away completely, honestly, especially with social media, especially with, honestly, a lot of parents don't have standards. I'll just be honest with you. A lot of, they don't teach it in school, unless you're really in church, good church. They don't teach it. You're not learning it from home life. So, you're just seeing what's on TikTok. And so, um, I always say meet the girl or meet the woman where you want to, like, if you want to find and die, if you want your future wife to be an elegant woman, you have to pursue an elegant woman. Don't go to the corner of, the local hood and just pick a girl off the street and be like, hey, we going to Roof Chris. She gonna be like, Roof what? Where
Right.
you
No,
going?
for real. And I think that is super. I just want to chime in on that real quick. Um, I think that is a representation of who you are because there are people that I would have dated 2 years ago that I would not even look at now because I expect more. I look at myself as not being better, but being on a different level and going a different way. So if I want a elegant type of person, I first need to be that elegant person that I'm looking for as well. There needs to be characteristics in me that is going to attract that person because a lot of times why we get rejected is because we're going for somebody that's truly out of our league and we're coming on a Applebee's budget for a $500, $600 type of person. And I'm just using money as a, you know, a thing as an example. But that even goes back to mental health and healing. You can't expect to want somebody healed on their stuff professionally, education wise, have everything together, and you're like trying to pick up all the pieces. That's why I think it's so important for all of us to take the necessary time to work on ourselves, learn what we want, learn who we are, even after we have already grown up, after being adults, because we continue to change. I think it's important to learn who you truly are before you start to pursue people, because you can pursue a person who you're just attracted to, but y'all don't have nothing in common. Or you can pursue a person that is way out of your league, and because you don't see out of your league in both ways, they could be on that $600 budget, or they could be on that $25 budget. So when you know yourself and you know who you are, it makes it easier in dating a person or looking to date a person.
Awesome. And then to go back to your point when we were talking about social media earlier, um, don't be fooled by. Um, my mom used to always say, "Everything that look good ain't good for you." That was
For
her key saying, or "Everything that glitter ain't gold."
you.
That's just two quick sayings, and you want to make sure your depiction of who you're pursuing is accurate. And so, what that means is, get to know the person. You know, don't just go off of social media and what they post. Get to know they like. There's a lot of. I'll tell you, like I said, I'm gonna put the viewers on game real quick. There's a lot of women that I know personally that on social media that when they post, I just shake my head like, you don't, baby girl, you don't look like that in person. You don't live like that. That what I'm saying, that car payment behind. That bad. You don't even clean your own bathroom, and you're over
Right,
here
and that goes
getting all these likes.
yeah, I said that earlier with the card thing. A person can post, and I'm a victim of this. I do this all the time without even realizing. A person will post a brand new truck. I love trucks like Wagoneers and like G wagons and stuff. A person can post a brand new one, and I'm like, oh no, now I gotta get that because they got it. And blah 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 blah. And it could be a rented thing. It could be they're on vacation and they got a what's it called, Turo or something like that. But our mind doesn't think like that, so we're only attracted to what we see. And once we get past that part of only what the image is showing, I think dating would definitely be better. You definitely got to dig deep. Definitely.
Right, definitely. And so, um, just to kind of sum up, that part of the topic, make sure men don't assume that you're getting some. That's the first top tip. Um, know who you are before you go into pursuing what you want. And then also, um, ladies, stop asking for cash apps. Just stop. And so,
Okay.
what we'll do is kind of want to segue into more of the family thing, because I think that one's a very deep topic. I know we touched on early childhood relationships, mental health with the counseling, but to kind of go through just on the family aspect of things, I think especially in the Black community, like I know we talked about a little bit earlier on in the episode with in the household of everything stays in the household. I want to kind of talk about, I grew up in church. I want to kind of talk about, you know, just different family things that kind of just stays hidden in the church as well as the home.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It is a real thing. I grew up in a type of family. When I was younger, I went through a lot of sexual. I won't say a lot, but I went through sexual. I hate to label it abuse because it some people would say it wasn't, some people would say, but I say that it was like something that I did not want. So I went through that from 6 to 14, and, nobody knew except for the individual that I was going through it with, and, um, it's not necessarily something I wanted. My mind, it kinda tricked me into thinking that this was what love was, this is what all of these different feelings were supposed to be like, but I didn't tell my mom, I couldn't tell my dad, like I said, he was not present. Um, I couldn't tell my brother because of the stigma of what a boy should be like, what a man should be like. Um, I told my sister, but she wasn't really able to understand what I was saying or handle that type of, I guess, weight, honestly. But other than that, I couldn't tell anybody. And when I finally did, it was not like a "it's okay" type of vibe. It was more so like, "How did you allow this? What did you do to let this person do this to you? Or what did you do for them to think that it was okay?" And I was never able to talk to my pastors about it, talk to my a therapist about it, or anybody outside of my family about this situation and what was going on. And I think that if I would have been able to outsource my pain, my anger, my feelings, my emotions, I wouldn't be dealing with it now.
Awesome, awesome. That's definitely a great, way to put it. Like I just feel like, especially in the family and church, a lot of, it could be sexual abuse, it could be pedophilia, it could be um, domestic violence, adultery, fornication, stuff like that. It's a big thing in the church. And we're, told to, look the other way. But then, the
Yeah,
Bible says, don't look the other way. So it's kind of like that. Like, um, how dare you challenge what we say or challenge the norm,
yeah,
and that just goes in my situation, just with my biological father again. And like I said, I would encourage viewers to view that childhood trauma series and a few of those Decree and Dominion Uncut episodes. But one thing, my mother told me, and my grandmother told my mom as well, when my biological father was a kid, he would run around telling people he was evil. And, back then, obviously mental health, there's different forms of mental health. There's your different disorders. There's just mental health in general.
Yeah.
especially in the black community, that was, kind of frowned upon, and like go seek counsel and help and like get them tested and stuff like that for just, it could be autism or, you know, so it's like, just different disorders, bipolar, etc. So that was frowned upon back in the day, but it's just simple stuff like that. I just remember as a kid, we'd go to family functions, and if my dad got mad, like the whole family would kind of just like, um, the best way to explain it was when something like, I know with sports is just like if your team's winning and like the team that nobody likes like scores that touchdown and the whole stadium goes silent. It's kind of like that feeling, like the whole family would just like, oh shoot, here he goes.
Right.
Like, and it was never. I think my problem with it was like, and like that's why I encourage all viewers to like seek counsel and work on mental health. There was never that. Um, at some point, um, somebody has to break the cycle. Somebody has to stand up, and like from a child, witnessing those events, there was never like my grandmother, his mother was just like, whatever, calm down, it's okay. Like there was
Yeah.
never like certain thing at some point. You have to just like put your foot down, and like there was never that family member that was just like, enough of this. Like you need help, and what I want to tell the viewers is it's not like downing the person. It's to help the person.
Very
Sometimes
true.
we're in our own way.
Yeah.
You might be, if you're viewing, you might be dealing with something that you have, you're oblivious to. Like I said, perception is your own reality, your own confirmation bias. And so you might be thinking you're perfectly fine living a normal life, and then everybody around you is like, this guy's messed up. Are you all right? And so,
Right.
I just wish that, you know, even now, just like that person, I just feel like, as men and women in general, both, we just have to work on ourselves. And I just think that we should, stand up for each other. If you're viewing here and you have a family member that maybe it could be a brother, it could be, stop okaying like you can. What I want to say is you can address something without coming off like off putting. Like don't just let your brother, beat his wife and just it's whatever. That's my bro.
Right. And through that, I think that's very, very important because as a child, I used to wish that somebody would have stood up to, like I've said multiple times through this episode, with my dad not being around. I Everybody in my family knew the type of father that he was. Everybody knew how he was towards me, to me, with me, and without me. And I wish that there was somebody to stand up and say, "Hey, Jeff, Senior, you need to be a better father. You need to do this. You need to do that." And be a father now, I would be okay with people telling me, "Hey, Jeff, you're kind of lacking in that area." And for example, my sister and my mom have told me that before, and I think that it's important to have people in your corner that actually love you enough to tell you the truth. I used to be like an angry person, truly. I used to yell a lot or raise my voice a lot, and when I had my daughter, I would, like, raise my voice a lot, and this is when she was, like, 4 or 5 years old, and it really was not necessary to be doing all that, and it wasn't until they told me, like, "Hey, Jeff, you really need to calm that down. You really need to get that together because you're damaging your daughter. You could possibly damage your daughter by talking to her like that. You could damage her by raising your voice all the time when there's no point for you to do that. You could be showing her how a man is supposed to talk to her when you do show her. Fathers, we show our kids what a man is like. So if I'm always yelling at her, if I'm always I don't put my hands on her, but raising my voice and stuff like that, Now, there are times when we need to be fair, but every single time you don't have to discipline by raising your voice and yelling and speaking negatively into them. So it's important to have people in your circle that love you enough to call you out on where you're lacking and where you can improve. Don't always be so offended by that.
Yes, and so definitely one of the big things you said is, um, when you seek higher counsel, also it's this type of village. It takes a village. Have a good circle around you. So have a good circle. You want to have a great circle of individuals around you. I call it the inner circle or the high table. If you watch John Wick, um,
Yeah,
it's kind of funny like watching those, but it's kind of cool. Like they all live by a code and they all are there for each other. Like, hey, when John Wick crossed them, what were they doing? They were all partnering together to, eliminate the threat. And so, same thing with your inner circle. Um, and just growing up, I just there's just different, like just fornication is just um, there's just certain people, certain things like even with friendships or acquaintanceships, like I won't even be associated with you, you know, to a certain
yeah,
extent, outside of a hey, how you doing if I see you, hi bye type thing. But especially in the black community, in the household, in the church, as a society, we just have to stop okaying like negative behavior. My
right,
mom and my stepdad, they're very good advocates of, hey, if I'm doing something that if they're notice your parents and others notice things that you don't necessarily notice. Like,
right,
hey, past couple of times I've seen you've been down, you all right, you seem down or you seem sad or you seem, not yourself. And, you might be thinking like, yeah, I'm just tired. I'm just going through surviving. But other of individuals within your circle are seeing what you don't really see. They're
right,
seeing the most accurate depiction of you. And then that also in tune ties into your your relationships, your job performance. It could be maybe you're trying to get that new promotion and you're moping around the office and you're not thinking you're moping around. You're like, oh, I want this promotion and why did I get this promotion? And your parents are like, or your friends, girlfriend, whoever it may be, boyfriend, whoever, hey, you're not yourself lately. You're all right. And then that could have been the reason why you didn't get the promotion because, the boss was like, hey, he's a great worker. He's a great guy, but he's just been off. And then you come to the interview off. And it's like, we're going to have to go with, unfortunately, I'm going to
yeah.
have to go to a different candidate.
And I think it's super important to have that trusted circle. Now, sometimes we might not have the right people in our circle, and I have had a lot of situations like that. Like there's people that I just cannot trust to tell me when I'm off because a person has to know you in order to know when you're off. So you need an accountability circle. You need people that actually love you enough to tell you the hard things about yourself because you're not perfect. You're not a squeaky clean person, no matter who you are. The we're striving for perfection, but none of us are perfect, and it's okay for people to tell you get it together. That ain't cool. You're not acting like yourself, and I know you can do better. And like I said, don't always be so defensive against that because it's important. It's really important because if nobody is telling you what's the truth about you, how are you ever gonna grow unless you start to see it yourself? But a lot of times, a person telling you about yourself is how you see the real you. Sometimes,
Right. And like I said, just a caveat off of that is also know who's in your circle too. Don't just be telling LaQuisha and Damon, just random stuff about you. And
yeah,
also make sure and to help the viewers out with that defensive mechanism, make sure, like with the trusted circle, make sure the people giving you the advice are fruits of, they have credibility in the area of advice. So for example, my mom raised me, so she has credibility with, hey, this is, what I'm seeing as a parent, and this is what I would
Right,
do. And also with the trusted circle, it's never a argument, or it's always a, hey, if, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I would advise. What do you think? It's always a back and like what are your thoughts on how
right,
this is how I would handle it. What do you think you're doing wrong? Or, what are your thoughts? So just make sure, one, you have trusted, credible people in your circle. And also, um, with any correction or advisement, um, and if you seek professional therapy, you'll kind of notice, like, a good professional, you don't want somebody that's always every conversation bashing you for what your shortcomings. You don't want, it should only be for coming from a place of love. And um like I said, it's only like, me and my mom rarely talk about, like, it's only like, hey, if the opportunity presents itself to come up. It's never a, hey, good morning, mom, oh, you didn't do this right. Or, you know same thing with your circle. And then also same thing with if you're in a relationship. You're a significant other and your partner. Every conversation shouldn't be a, hey, yesterday you hurt my feelings, or yesterday you didn't take the trash out, or you didn't cook dinner, or, you didn't wash my lawn. It shouldn't be always a negative. And what we said earlier, you manifest what you want and um, what you portray. And so if every conversation leads with a negative connotation, your whole situation is going to be negative. So make sure you balance especially with friendships and relationships, make sure you balance, um, you know, and then also have awareness. Awareness is one key thing I think we just like as society. If your friends, family member just passed away, yesterday, and they're telling you about it, now that's not the time to be like, well, um, you don't really, you don't seem yourself. It's not, just have awareness with your conversations and when you speak to people as well.
absolutely.
And so, to kind of close out here, can you give some of your maybe top 3 to 5 tips that you would give the viewers on mental health and, some of the topics we've discussed here?
Ooh, okay. Top three. First and foremost, mental health is the most important. If you do not take care of your mental health, you cannot take care of anything else. Don't bottle up your emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be weak. It's okay to be emotional. Third, be your best self. In order to attract the best, you have to be the best. Um, Fourth and final is to realize that it is a journey, and you do not have to rush to finish first. Allow yourself time to heal, allow yourself to grow and be better, and understand that you are walking through this. You are not running through this. Just enjoy every moment of your life and enjoy every moment of your healing. That's it for me.
And then, just to kind of highlight a few things spoken in this episode. One thing said earlier, we as humans, like I said, with the tree crashes and hits the road, it's stopping you from achieving your road to where you want to be. Also, stop the cash apps. Stop expecting intimacy from paying for dates. And make sure you stand up for your family, stand up for each other in regards to the family and in the home and the church. Don't just stand for negative behavior. Make sure you have a trusted circle as well. And so, can you let everybody know, the viewers know, where they could find your podcast to like, follow, and share?
Absolutely. So it's Bro Let's Talk. You can go to Linktree/Bro Let's Talk, or you can go to my Instagram, which is FAC or Bro Let's Talk Podcast, and it is on Spotify.
Awesome, awesome. And it's been a pleasure having you on the Crib Dominion. Hope the
Thank
viewers
you.
have a great night. Again, this is episode 2 of the mental health series that'll be releasing in early March. Make sure viewers stay tuned for more great content. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.